We've all seen them, right? Those viral online pranks that just blow up your feed. Some make you laugh, some make you cringe. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at what's really happening behind the screen. We're talking laughs, liability, and likes, and the very real cost of it all.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is all this just harmless fun, or are we watching high-risk stunts play out in real time? You hear the creators say it's just comedy, but then you see the other side, the humiliation, the distress, sometimes even real danger. So where is that line? How do we know when a joke stops being a joke?
Okay, so to really dig into this, we're not just guessing here. Everything we're covering in this explainer is based on a really insightful 2025 study by Dr. Rony A. Rodas. And what's so great about his work is that he didn't just look at the pranksters. No, he looked at the entire system, the technology, the platforms that actually fuels what he calls clout-chasing prank culture.
And this right here, this is the fundamental conflict that Dr. Rodas zeroes in on. On one side, you've got the creator. Their goal? Super simple. Go viral. They are all about racking up those views, likes, and yeah, those sponsorship deals. But then there's the flip side, the cost. And it's a very real cost. Paid live victims and bystanders who, by the way, never signed up for any of it. They're the ones left dealing with the fallout.
All right, so let's dive into our first big idea here, the clout currency engine. Dr. Rodas' study makes a pretty bold claim. It says these wild pranks, they're not just a couple of creators going rogue. They're actually a feature, not a bug, of the whole social media machine.
So to get why that is, you've got to understand this concept called the attention economy. Just think about it. Your attention, the time you spend scrolling, that's a product. It's a scarce resource. And all these platforms, they're in a massive, constant battle to capture and hold on to every single second of it.
Okay, so if everyone is fighting for your attention, how do you win? Well, this is where Dr. Rodas' study offers this really powerful idea. He says that in this economy, risk becomes a currency. Creators literally spend risk, both to themselves and more often to other people, to buy our attention. It's a transaction, and the algorithm is the marketplace. And this whole system creates this really dangerous cycle. Here's how it works. A creator posts a pretty simple prank. It does well. But, people get bored. The novelty wears off and the views start to tank. So what do? They have to escalate. They have to do something riskier, something more shocking to get that attention back. And here's the kicker. The algorithm loves it. It sees the engagement and pushes the extreme content out to more people. So the creator gets rewarded, and the cycle just keeps on repeating, pushing them to go bigger and bolder every single time.
Okay, so the system provides the fuel, right? But what about the person behind the camera? Let's get into the psychology of the prankster. What is actually going on in their heads that makes them press record on some of these stunts?
Dr. Rodas' research points to a few key ideas from psychology. First, there's social learning. Basically, when you see someone else get famous and rich for doing something risky, you're more likely to copy them. Makes sense. Then there's sensation seeking. Some people are just wired to crave that adrenaline rush. Another big one is impression management. It's all about building that online brand, that persona of being fearless or uncancelable. But honestly, this last one, this might be the most crucial piece of the puzzle.
Which really begs the question, right? How do these creators, and a lot of their fans, sleep at night? How do they justify causing what is sometimes very real harm? The answer, according to the study, is a fascinating psychological trick called moral disengagement.
So what is moral disengagement? In simple terms, it's like a mental loophole. It's the process your brain goes through to convince itself, hey, those ethical rules I normally live by, they don't apply here. And that little switch allows people to do things they know, deep down, are probably wrong.
And I bet you've heard this a million times. It's the classic, it's just a prank, bro. Or maybe, come on, they were laughing at the end. Or people need to lighten up. These phrases, they aren't just empty excuses. The study shows they are textbook examples of moral disengagement. They're tools people use to rebrand genuine harm as just entertainment.
So this all leads to a really important question. Who actually pays the price for all this? We've looked at the tech and the psychology. Now let's get into the hard data from the study and see what the real-world consequences are.
And the numbers we're about to look at, they're not just pulled out of thin air. Dr. Rodas' study is based on a deep dive analysis of 200 different public cases. We're talking everything from news reports to legal filings to interviews with the creators themselves. This is solid research.
So, what kind of pranks are we actually talking about here? This breakdown is pretty eye-opening.
The biggest slice of the pie, 35%, is just straight-up public harassment. Yelling at people, faking arguments in public. Then you've got another big chunk, 25%, of what they call social experiments, which, let's be honest, often just feels like a fancy name for manipulating people on camera.
And the consequences? This is where it gets really serious. You might think physical injury would be at the top, and yeah, that definitely happens. But look at this. The #1 reported outcome, by far, was emotional distress and humiliation. It's the kind of harm you can't see, but it is absolutely real for the person on the receiving end. And notice how high legal action and arrests is. That tells you there's a huge gap between what creators call content and what the law calls a crime.
And all of this brings us to another key idea from the study: diffused risk, concentrated reward. Think about it. The reward, the fame, the money, the views, it's all concentrated on one person, the creator. But the risk, that's spread out everywhere. It's diffused. The victims bear the risk of harm, the bystanders bear the risk of getting caught up in it, even first responders bear the risk of wasting time on a fake emergency. The creator gets all the benefit, and everyone else shares the cost.
Okay, so where do we go from here? What does all this mean for us? This brings us to our final section, rethinking the like button. Because it turns out we're all part of this story.
The study doesn't just point out the problem, it offers some solutions. And it's not just on one group. For educators, it's about teaching digital literacy, helping kids see when they're being manipulated. For the social media platforms, it's about getting serious with their policies on humiliation, not just obvious violence. For lawmakers, it might mean creating new rules for this new world of staged public stunts. And for all of us, the viewers, it's about recognizing that we have power here. Every single view, every like we give, is a vote cast in that attention economy.
I mean, this quote from Dr. Rodas just says it all, doesn't it?
Clout-chasing prank culture transforms risk into digital currency. It's such a perfect way to put it. It frames this whole thing as an economy, where the raw materials being used are danger and humiliation, all to create the product of online fame.
So that's what we'll leave you with. The next time you're scrolling and you see one of these videos pop up, just take a second and ask yourself this. In an economy that rewards risk, what is the real value of my like? What am I really buying with my attention?